Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Later we'll visit with Mezzo Soprano Erica Papillion-Posey. While she performs mostly in Europe, she's returning to Denver for a series of concerts. But we begin tonight at the historic Chautauqua House in Boulder. It's the setting for a special event, Local Lab New Play Festival, produced by a local theater company. We'll get all the details from company co-founders Pesha Rudnick and Mathews. Well, what a wonderful space to have a new play festival, readings in this community house at Chautauqua. How did you come across this as part of your offering for this event? How did you find this space?
So I'd recently moved to the Chautauqua neighborhood, and
you live here?
I do. Well, not up here, but in the hood.
Oh, how nice!
Down and about a year ago, I wandered up here with my toddler up to the park. That's the right over here. And struck up a conversation with a woman, and we started talking about theater and the history of theater here at Chautauqua. And I discovered that there has been no theater here for more than 40 years, and quickly took that as a challenge to bring it back. And she showed me the large venue, which is the auditorium most people are familiar with.
That huge hand-built auditorium.
Yes, the gorgeous historic auditorium, where Local actually did our first production. And then she showed me this community house, and immediately felt like this was the right place for a new play festival.
And how did Local Theater Company become Local Theater Company as co-founders? What was it part of that visit that made you decide you should have a theater company here? What was it?
Well, actually, Local Theater Company started a little over 10 years ago now, more than that, in 1998 in Venice, California, where Pesha and I both grew up and had been childhood friends. We returned from college back to our hometown, and we're going through the process of starting to work professionally in the arts, doing auditions and interviews and applying for
all the fun part of
all the glamorous parts, the apprenticeships and programs and everything we could.
And waitressing.
Yeah, all of that. And we realized we really wanted to be doing art also, and the only way to do that immediately was to do it ourselves. And we wanted to do art and do theater with our peers and for our community. And so we founded Local, and we just started
California.
In California.
And you brought it here. So how did you end up coming to Colorado?
So Megan and I, after starting Local in Los Angeles, sort of had the reality of life set in, and we had to get real jobs that paid real
health insurance,
etc. So we sort of took our own paths, and I was doing a lot of freelance directing that took me to New York City, where I fell in love with my husband, who had committed to a project here in Boulder. So he pulled me out, and I spent the first 3 years kicking and screaming, and then went, wait a second, I live in the most gorgeous place on earth. It's time to revive Local Theater Company. And again, that conversation with the woman I met in the park was the sort of signal that we were ready to revive the company.
So there was a break for Local Theater Company.
Yeah, a large break. Well, we went off and pursued our careers in the arts.
How did you come up with the name?
Well, when we started, we were really Venice-based. The first show that we did was in a local hangout, a diner that we spent almost every Saturday morning, and Sunday,
Wednesday,
and afternoons, and the other actors who participated with us also lived in Venice. We wanted the community in Venice to come into a space that they used for eating and see theater there. We were very interested in that overlap of art and community, and it was a big party.
So Local really was, well, I should say that community is embedded into our mission. And so the local part of it is that the community of theater in this country is actually a national community. So while we assemble artists from all over the country, because in our new play festivals, for example, we'll have people from all over the country here, we really feel that all theater is local theater.
I like that. That's charming. It's not, so it wasn't for lack of being able to come up with a name and you got stuck with your working title. It was intentional.
It was very deliberate.
Absolutely,
So what is the mission of Local Theater Company?
Well, local, we produce new work and work by emerging playwrights. We also produce works of, we like to reimagine the classics, so those are also considered new works. And we engage the community in that process.
That's a really sort of ambitious and hard to pin down kind of mission statement. So how does it apply when you're here in Colorado?
Sure. Well, for example, at the New Play Festival, we have 3 new plays that are from, that were selected from about 58 submissions from all over the country.
58 submissions for your first New
It
Play
was
Festival.
an embarrassment of riches.
It was.
So what that tells you is that there are a lot of playwrights who are eager to go
Right.
through the process
Absolutely.
of having readings done of their work.
Yes.
Absolutely. And there were a lot of, and these are voices that go unheard because these are all new plays that have never been produced. So while the playwrights are emerging playwrights, these plays were not selected for some of the other festivals in this country. The lab part is that every show will be followed by a discussion.
Right, so
a
that-
talk back with
yeah.
a professional who's in the field, a community member from the field. Philip Sneed, for example, at Colorado Shakespeare Festival will lead one of the discussions. And it's an opportunity for our audiences to get a chance to express their opinion about the project, the themes in the play, etc.
Of course, there must be some hope that out of this festival you will select some works to
Right.
mount here
Well,
at Local Theater.
that's the objective. This is the first step in the locals production pipeline. So what the audience tells us is part of our decision-making process, what themes resonate for them, what subjects are interesting and what aren't. And it really does inform our decision on what play we will select to produce in the fall.
You had 58 submissions. How many plays will we get to hear?
You'll get to hear 3 of them. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have 3 different plays. And at the end of the festival, we give ourselves 30 days to choose one of them. And one of those plays will be produced in full production in at the Dairy Center for the Arts here in Boulder.
Right here in Boulder.
Yeah,
So
local.
in case we didn't hit on it, that of those 58 playwrights, they're new voices, as you said. These aren't necessarily unknown or unproven voices.
Right.
Michael Mitnick is participating for one.
That's right.
How did that happen?
Well, Michael and I have a history. We've worked together before, right out of Yale. When Michael graduated from Yale, we worked on a short play together. So I sent out an email to my colleagues in the field, and when I received Michael's submission, he actually, I think he submitted 2 plays.
other plays, yeah.
Yeah, and we, Michael's a doll and a fantastic person to work with, and his play sort of rose to the top naturally.
That illustrates part of your earlier comment about the national community of theater being very local, because even though you live here, you had that history and that connection
That's
with
right.
him.
Yeah.
We know we have those 3 days to look forward to coming to hear these plays being read in this beautiful environment. How do we find out about getting tickets? What should we expect? Are there any ancillary activities part of the festival?
Yeah, it's a fantastic weekend. In addition to getting to see 3 plays over 3 days, we have 2 fantastic parties. There's also Lila.
You have to love an event that has some parties.
Right? It's all about the food and parties, honestly. We also have, after every show, there is a talk back. So the audience is really engaged in that way. And then Liva Rose Kaplan, who wrote 100 Plays, which is the play you'll see on Friday night, is teaching a master playwriting class that is not for writers of all experience levels, no experience, just people interested in the practice of playwriting and are enthusiastic and want to share their ideas. They'll leave the end of this workshop with some tools to continue.
There are actually 3 different ways you can participate. You can buy a festival pass, which includes the 3 plays, the 2 swanky parties, and actually doesn't include the master class, but it's 3 plays. Or you can buy individual tickets. You can look on our website and say, I want to see a show on Saturday and only Saturday.
So even if you can't commit to the whole
Right.
thing, you can
You're
still...
welcome to come to an individual show.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And they also have a package if you want to make
Right.
a whole weekend of theater. Chautauqua has put together a stay and play package where
you can stay here at the
you
cabins.
can rent a cabin and tickets and parties and you know,
Good
make
time.
a whole weekend of it.
That sounds like a really delicious possibility.
I know, doesn't it?
Now, the one thing I want to get out of you before we leave is a commitment that when you select the one play of these from the festival, that we can come back and follow that process, find out how you chose it, see how you're working on it, and you're going to be performing it at the dairy, so we get to visit sort of rehearsals.
Our pleasure.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
And we imagine it's going to be a very hard decision. You might have to take B-roll of us on the floor, pulling
Exactly. Pacing, breaking pencils. Yeah.
Well, I'm delighted I had this excuse to come and enjoy this wonderful space, and it's going to be a really fun place to watch a new play festival. And it's our first visit to a local theater company. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
It is.
You won't want to miss this special event produced by local theater company, Local Lab New Play Festival. Visit localtheatercompany.com for more information. Next, I speak with an artist with roots in Denver, but who has built her reputation mostly in Europe. And she has a special concert coming up right here in Denver. Here's my visit with Mezzo Soprano Erica Papillion-Posey. Well, I'm so delighted to meet you. When I first heard that you were coming back from Europe and doing this recital here, I was so thrilled to get the chance to meet you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How long have you been away singing in Europe?
Well, I come and go pretty often, but for the past 3 years, I've come and gone. But I've actually been back since the November-ish, yeah.
That's really wonderful that you're able to come home and still bring your art that you studied here and enhanced in Europe while you're away. What made you choose the programming that we're going to see in your recital?
Well, as a mezzo soprano, which I actually love being, that's my FOC, what we would call a FOC, voice type. To me, mezzo sopranos actually have the more interesting characters.
Well, you don't always play just a girl, first of all.
You can play a boy, you can be a good boy, a bad boy, a conflicted boy, but you know, any character for the mezzo, a bad girl, a sexy girl, a vampy girl, you know. There are lots of dimensions and range to the mezzo soprano voice. Yes, still there are ranges to the soprano as well, but to me the characters are far more interesting and diverse, and there's more meat to the mezzo-soprano character. And if you hear my speaking voice, I'm naturally a mezzo.
I think a lot of people think that opera singers are so serious that that's all that they enjoy, and that's so not true.
No, so not true. When I leave here, I put Chrisette Michelle into my player, just to unwind and to have fun, and particularly, I'm from Louisiana. So I grew up, of course, in the South, where there's a particular type of music called zydeco, of course, which is, of course, another extension of jazz as well. So all different kinds of music, and it's just, you know, instinctive. It's just indigenous to the region.
So, what are we going to see any of that in your
No
recital?
zydeco this time.
No zydeco. So, what are we going to see in your recital?
You are going to see and hear. We'll be doing selections from Sasson et Dalila, de Mon Cœur s'ouvre ta voix, and Amour vient aider, which is 2 arias from the opera Sasson et Dalila.
So how did you choose those?
Well, again, when you sing a particular voice type, again, as the voice is cultivated, your voice will naturally fall into a particular type of repertoire, where it's better suited, it's best suited, it sits well in the literature. So my literature happens to be the Romantic period. And
what a shame.
What a shame, right? What a shame.
Some of the most popular operas
are deeply rooted in the Romantic period. But ironically, we don't have a lot of mezzo-sopranos anymore that actually sing the particular type of repertoire that I sing. Partially because we don't have the voices to sing it anymore. They're just not cultivated that way. Typically, if you were an Italian child that was going to be singing, you know, at some point in your life, of course their schools are more specific than our schools are. Ours are more general. But if you are geared toward the arts, say in Italy, as a child, you move directly into an art school, where that's not necessarily so here.
It's definitely not necessarily so here. We have so few art schools, and
so
arts,
few.
sadly,
Very
not in our regular schools
Very
either.
true, very true. So you actually develop or are groomed toward a specific type of repertoire. Of course, again, the voice changes, and then you move into other areas. So for instance, for my timing, my voice, the way my voice has been crafted, Verdi, who I swear was my boyfriend in a former life. I tell everyone that was my boyfriend. Verdi, of course, Carmen Bizet, and Sasson et Dalila is by Camille Sasson. So those are my areas, and they all belong to a specific period in history and time. And it's amazing because that particular literature also fits my personality. So it's very natural for me. I was working with my teacher, and he was saying to me, we were doing a series of vocalises, which we do to warm up the voice, and he was telling me to put gesture into it, put movement into it, to warm up. And I said, oh, come on, you know, I do that naturally. It's just organic. It's just who I am. I don't find that I have to try in the genre. I don't feel contrived. I don't feel like it's cut and pasted, if you will.
That's an interesting way to describe that.
Yeah, yeah. It's not false for me. It's, you know, it's not forced. It's just really natural. I have a bit of Carmen in me. I have a bit. Yes. And again, it's just comfortable.
When you're moving from those different pieces in a recital, is that more challenging to be able to capture the moment that the character's experiencing, and concentrate solely on the sound, or do you still concentrate on the characterization?
Both. The more you do it, the more they sink into one. You really do inhabit or become everything, not just the character. You become the music. You become that time. You become a person in that time. You really do. So when we actually start learning a piece of music, you don't actually just go to the piano and start playing the music and learning it. No, it starts with research first. So you have to have context of where you are at that point in history, so that you can properly inhabit the character. And then maybe you move into looking at the music, but you don't actually sing. You'll actually go through it in rhythm. Then you'll...
almost Sprachstimme for a while?
A little Sprechstimme, exactly, exactly. So yes, it's not actually, there's so much more preparation involved. So I really do, there are just so many different aspects that have to come, embed themselves into you at one particular time to make the character believable and fun and allow you the opportunity to deliver the character.
Hearing you describe these kinds of roles, this kind of music, it's easy to see that you have passion for it. And I'm sure that will carry over so that even if someone's not familiar with all these beautiful pieces you've just described, they'll want to come and see you. But as an artist, you perform mostly in Europe, less so here. And you grew up in the South, and you studied here in Colorado, where there's a very specific experience for a woman of color and an artist of color. And that seems very different in Europe. Tell me about that.
I'm glad you asked the question. Thank you for asking the question. Oftentimes it is like the elephant in the room in this country, not necessarily in Italy.
Because they don't think of it, or because they're embarrassed to talk about it?
In Italy or in Europe, for instance? I think it is, absolutely they think of it. Absolutely.
So they're too embarrassed to talk about it, maybe? Uncomfortable?
There is uncomfort, not necessarily an embarrassment, but an uncomfortable, an unease about it, because they are aware that this is the issue or the situation, but they're aware also of the connotation that comes with it, the door that has to be opened to actually discuss it. and that in some way it might reflect on them. And when I say them, I'm speaking of actually, you know, the white community, because this industry, this particular genre of music, is dominated by
the audience
the
is
white
predominantly
population.
white. The support comes from.
And not just necessarily that it's a white audience, it's a much older white audience, typically.
So it's generational as
so
well.
So it's generational as well, exactly.
That carries a whole nother set of luggage that we...
Exactly. So then we just don't talk about it. We just stay away from it. We know it.
Many people who live in the United States who have a limited exposure to opera may only think of Leontine Price as the only woman of color that they've ever seen sing opera.
Right, right.
What does that feel like for you as an artist when you're interacting with other artists of color who may not be involved in opera? Do they have a different reaction to the fact that you choose opera?
Absolutely. It's not seen as accessible to us. And I've literally had people say that to me, because I've made an effort to go into my own community, of course, and make it more accessible to people in my community, and offer to do concerts, offer to engage in the schools, speak to children directly. We're actually hosting in my charity a couple of the children from Betcher Boys and Girls Club who will be coming to the recital, so they can see what it's about, so they can be, you know, be more exposed to it, and have an opportunity to witness an art form that is not even on their radar. They don't have a clue, or they think that it's just for them.
Obviously, you feel a responsibility to do that.
Because
there are so few women of color in your art form here.
Right, I really do.
What does that feel like to have that on top of your art as a responsibility?
I feel that it is necessary, but I also feel that it's a little daunting. It can feel daunting to me, because it is seen as such an elitist art form, and such an accessible art form, that they really, really believe that it's just something that those people do. It's not for them. It's not even remotely, you know, sometimes you take the opportunity to try to give an example of something, to children, for instance, an example of something that they could relate to. Through another art form like hip hop or jazz or something that, you know, they're familiar with, that they might hear on a regular basis. It's not always easy still to be able to do that with having them relate to opera. For instance, Beyonce. There was a remake of Carmen, but it's called Carmen Jones, I believe it is. They all knew what Carmen Jones was, but they didn't know that there was a Carmen before Carmen, you know, Jones. And I had to explain to them that this is where she got it from. This is what wasn't something that she created on her own. This isn't something that she wrote. This isn't another one of her videos. This was the person that was the predecessor to the Beyonce from Carmen Jones, you know? And they're always shocked and amazed. But I love that. I love teaching. I'm a big history buff. I love, love, love history. So I really get into the research of a character. I enjoy that part of it. So being able to relate some history to them behind what they know to be familiar to them today was really helpful. Being a history person myself, and they're always fascinated. So there's a window there, there's an opening there, and then they start to listen. That gives them the opportunity to say, okay, I should listen to this a little bit more.
And in their lives, in their lifetime, they're watching you establish yet more history of a broadening of this art form that was at one time the popular music of the day, the popular entertainment of the day.
Absolutely. And now that we are ripping music from the schools more and more every day, budgets are being cut more and more every day. We have I feel more of a responsibility to keep it accessible and to make them aware that we can do this, you know. One of the children, I was speaking to a child, and she asked me, are you like the Venus and Serena Williams, you know, like in tennis, because, you know, mostly there's not a lot of us there. And I'm like, well, it's something like, yeah, that's a good example. They're thinking about it, you know. And it can be uncomfortable being the only one, you know. But I don't even think of that. I don't feel that. Particularly when I'm in Europe, I can just be. I don't have to wear my color.
Well, I'm glad that you still bring your music to Colorado, and I know you're going to be bringing it several times throughout the next year, and I can't wait to come back and visit you again. But this concert, this recital that you're doing right in this space.
Yes, in this space.
Later this month.
Yes.
So we have to make sure we all come and see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I am so thankful that there is this medium out there for the performing arts community in the Denver metro area that I didn't even know existed. So thank you, 1,000 times thank you, for just the services that you provide to our community.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Erica Papillion-Posey's concert is at the Kenneth King Ctr for the Performing Arts on the Auraria campus. Visit their webpage or call the box office for more information. A new play by Adam Bach, A Small Fire, makes its regional premiere this weekend at the Edge Theater Company. On our next edition, we return to this ambitious Lakewood-based theater company. Here's a small preview of my conversation with the director and artistic director.
I think this play is about relationships and connection with people and how we take that for granted.
Almost every person I've ever met, when you peel back all of the stuff that they insulate themselves with from the rest of society and from other people in scary situations. When you peel that back, people are beautiful. And it is absolutely true in this play, and we get to see 4 beautiful characters as portrayed by maybe 4 of the best actors in town, which is always a delight.
That's all for this edition. Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. With all that Colorado has to offer, we're here to help you keep it in focus. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.